Welcome, everybody, back to another episode of Wire2Wire Sports Podcast. I am the NFL genius, Gene Walzak. And in the upper left corner, we got Kent State's own, Cleveland's own, College Cuttrell.
Gentlemen, I'm so glad. I know you guys are in a good mood here. Happy for you guys here. It's gonna be a fun one. It's gonna be a fun one. Absolutely.
I don't know, bro. I might not be in a good mood.
I doubt it.
I'm in a great mood, baby. I'm fired up. In the upper right corner, we got Scholastic Shally, Uncle Shally, and Super Bowl Shally, Mr. Willie Shawcross.
Oh.
Gentlemen.
Remix. There you go.
Gentlemen. Just starting to add championships. It feels like it's starting to become normal. I like the feeling. What?
You're like frozen, bro. You're good now, but you were like auto-tuned, frozen, chopping up. I don't know what happened.
Auto-tune might not be a bad idea for the rest of the show.
But listen, I'm gonna tell you something right now. This is gonna sound funny, and I apologize now for what I'm about to say. And the podcasted version is probably only going to hear this because the live people aren't here yet. Like, meet the live people, they come in minute 5, minute 6. But the podcast version is not going to like this. It's okay. I have pooped, and I feel better. The fibers ran through my body. The nerves are gone. That was an absolute beatdown. It was incredible. It was, I don't know, man. I called a 16-point win, and it was bigger than that, right? I got laughed at. For what I said, that it was going to be a 16-point win. I said 29-13. I said the Eagles defense is going to dominate. I said the Eagles defensive line is going to own the Chiefs offensive line. I got laughed at on other shows. Not by you guys. I understand. But the Philadelphia Eagles absolutely dominated that football game. I could not feel more excited. I could not feel better. Cooper DeJean scoring a touchdown on his birthday on a pick 6. Josh Sweat making himself a ton of money on the open market, destroying. Listen, I told you Joe Tooney's a left tackle because he's the left guard because he's not a left tackle. I told you that. His arms are not long enough to box with God. The Eagles dominated that Super Bowl. That was belts to asses.
I'm curious, though, because I wanted to text you guys so bad, but I didn't want to be that guy. For you guys, at what point did you know it was over? Because for me, it wasn't after the Cooper pick 6. It was after Zach Bond caught the interception, literally the play after the pick 6. At that point, I was like, all right, the Chiefs aren't going to put it together. And it was early, but I was texting everyone else who wasn't a Chiefs fan or Eagles fan. I was like, this game is over. Like, there is nothing. So much
for not texting me that.
There is nothing.
Lost my mind on you.
I know. So
the truth here.
For you guys, at what point did you know that it was actually over?
Shall you answer that first? Because I'm going to sound like an asshole.
Oh man.
I know the exact moment I thought it was over.
I'll be honest. I don't want to say it was. I don't want to say it was the interception per se. I would say right away, right after that, A.J. Brown scoring, going up 24 at half. I felt at that point it was, I know how much we talk about how great Mahomes is, but that to me kind of felt like the first dagger that kind of got in the heart. I know he's great. I just didn't see us, with all the success we were having on offense at that point, not scoring any points in the second half. And then on top of that, I just didn't see how they were going to score 24 to get back in the game on that defense. So the A.J. Brown touchdown for me right before half was kind of it for me.
My answer is going to make you laugh, and it's the truth. I swear to you, it's the absolute truth the moment I knew. You're going to laugh, and that's okay. It was 27-0 Eagles, and it was a 4th and 3, and Mahomes threw an out pattern, and Avonte Maddox, who was in for Cooper DeJean for a minute, tipped the ball to get the 4th down, and the next play, Jalen Hurts threw the dagger through the heart to make it 34-0. I've been an Eagles fan for 35 years, I've seen some shit. I watched 28-3. I watch it, and Tom Brady calling the game, Mahomes being down 24-0. I'm like, I can just see this script. Brady calling it, Mahomes doing the same thing. I was 34-0. I was like, the Eagles won the game. That was it. It took me that long to absolutely know they won the football game.
So it's funny that you say that, because once it was 17-0, that's kind of how I felt. I'm like, all right, he's shaping this up for his 28-3 comeback. But then literally the very next, his very next time out there, throwing the pick right to Zach Bond, like, the Eagles are going to score here, whether it was 20-0 or it was 24-0 at half. I'm like, it really doesn't matter, because the Chiefs had, like, you can talk about the defense dominating, and that they absolutely did. But the way that offense was moving the ball down the field consistently, the Chiefs had no answer across the board. And you can kind of see that. Like, Spags was like, all right, we're trying to empty the tank here. We're going to send these blitzes. Everything was getting picked up. Nothing really got home. Jalen got sacked the one time on third down. But like, literally outside of that, that was when you guys were on like 30-yard line or something. You lost like 10 yards. But literally outside of that, though, that Kansas City defense could do absolutely nothing with that Eagles offense. So that, for me, that, like I said, I knew once that happened, I was like, all right, if Pat can't overcome, like, you're going to need to score 35, 40 points in this one. And at some point, possessions are going to matter. So that's why I say after that pick, I knew it was a done deal.
This might sound rude. This might sound it's actually silly, right? The 40-22 score was not indicative of what that game was. And the part that bothered me about that game, and I'm not saying that the Chiefs should have quit. I'm not saying that they should have ran the clock out. I'm not saying that they should have just threw in the white towel. But I know this, and I don't care what you say. You're not going to tell me any different. They scored those 2 touchdowns with 2-point conversions at the end of the game to protect Mahomes' legacy. That's all that was.
100%.
That was all that was. That was like, we had the backups in and you went and threw a bomb. Get the hell out of here, dude. The game's over. Stop it. I was so annoyed watching them score to make that game look closer, because it was 40-6. That's what it was. The Eagles absolutely dominated that football game. You getting 16 garbage points afterwards. Screw you, you scumbags.
I mean,
I hate to say it, I agree with him completely. That point in the game, like, almost like fired me back up, and I got mad. Like, I was literally hoping Sirianni to put the starters back in the game to go score again.
Yep.
I really was.
Not gonna lie to you, it's the last game of the year. I mean, I understand why he didn't, because you have an injury there. Then you're talking about potential training camp and maybe beginning of the season miss, things like that. But I mean, what else were the Chiefs supposed to, like? There is no way in any moment that I'm not trying to score. Like, until it's all the way over, I got to do something.
I love that the Eagles had their backups in the Super Bowl. That means every person on that Eagles team, every person on that 52-man roster got to play in the Super Bowl. I love that. Now, that's awesome to me. Here you go. Okay, I'm sorry. You could say it. That's fine. That's just the way I felt. What are they supposed to do? It's garbage time. I get it. But it felt to me like they were trying to, like, make it look better for Mahomes' legacy. Because do you know the biggest rotten egg on Peyton Manning's legacy? We all know it, right? We all remember Seattle versus Denver and what Seattle did to them. That was a rotten egg on Peyton Manning's legacy.
But I think in the moment it was, but like looking back on it, like when you talk about Peyton Manning, I feel like that game never gets brought up.
I think it gets brought up a ton. We talked about, it's funny, this Philadelphia Eagles team, people ask me all the time, what team did it most remind you of? It reminds me of that Seattle Seahawks team, that same Seattle Seahawks team, that team that had an elusive quarterback. They had weapons on the outside, a great running game in Marshawn Lynch, an incredible defense, a great secondary. That's what that team reminded me of, that Seahawks team that dominated the Super Bowl, going against an all-time great quarterback. That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah, I saw that one. No, honestly, I saw that one a lot, and then I saw, a lot of, like, speaking of the guy whose record he broke. I mean, it reminded me of those 2 back-to-back Broncos teams that won. You had Elway that was still good, and then you had Terrell Davis, who was a monster. weapons on the outside, Shannon Sharp, really good defense, and upset Brett Favre. They were, I think, like 18-point underdogs or something in that game. It's one of the biggest upsets in the history of the Super Bowl, still to this day. It's different if you want to keep them in and you just want to play offense or whatever. It was more for me, like Gene said, it was like, oh, now that backups are in and Mahomes is going to get smacked every time he drops back, now we'll start throwing bombs and start like padding stats, like when you're down 34 points with 4 minutes to go. Like it did. It felt it just felt honky to me. Like at that point, like, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't even have Mahomes in the game. Like it something fluky happens, and now you're talking about messing with next season for them. So it felt very self-serving. I'll say that for them. And again, anybody who watched the game 10 years from now is just going to remember how bad they got their asses kicked.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm implying. 100%. And I'll be very clear. I think that's exactly what they were doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've been pretty clear about that.
And I get it, bro. Listen, was where you at 2 years ago. Super upset, super annoyed. The Chiefs have nothing to hang their head on. They're a great football team. They're a great franchise. Patrick Mahomes is still well on pace to be one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, if not the greatest quarterback of all time. I do want to ask you guys a question, and this might be homerism, and I guarantee you out of the three of us, Cottrell ranks them the lowest. But this team, and I mean this when I say this, I want you to think back in history. 14-3, won the NFC Championship game by like 30 points, dominated, won the Super Bowl in one of the most dominated fashions that you can win a Super Bowl in. I don't want to say they're the greatest team ever to touch a football field, but they're close. Like, how many teams can you think of in the modern era that are better than this 2025 Philadelphia Eagles team? No, you could do that, right? Find a team that, if you want to give me examples, find a team that has 14 wins, that won the NFC Championship game by domination, that won the Super Bowl by absolute domination. Give me examples. And I guess it's unfair for me to just bring this up now, but I want examples, right? You look at this football team. I'm telling you, take Jalen Hurts out of it. We'll talk about Jalen Hurts in a minute. They have a top 5 offensive line, probably number 1 offensive line in football. They have a top running back, probably the number 1 running back in football. They have a top 5 receiving core in football. They have a top 5 defensive front in football. They have a top 5 secondary in football. They had the number 1 defense in football. Like, you could say what you want, but now I would like an example of how they're not one of the top 5 teams ever to play football. See, I don't think Cottrell's Mike even wants him to respond. They're just like, no, you can't respond. Let me know when you're ready, bro. There it is.
I'll say I think if you look at it on paper, I mean, of course, I think you can have that conversation, but we're talking about a team that wasn't even the 1 seed this year. It's not to say that 14-3 wasn't impressive, not to say that this team wasn't great, not to say, the run wasn't incredible, because it was. Like, everything was absolutely incredible. But, I mean, it's hard for me to say that this is one of the greatest teams ever when they quite literally weren't the number 1 team going into the playoffs there. I'm not saying that's the only reason, but, I mean, I have to look at that as something that matters. And I get it. One of the games you lost, Hurts didn't play. So it really is probably a team that should have been 15-2. But, I mean, for me, I think that I would have to take a deeper look at a lot of other teams there, but that's number 1, like, on the surface of why I'd be like, all right, let me think back to some great teams.
And you're right, Derek. They weren't number 1 because of 2 drop passes. I'll tell you this, right? They lost 3 football games this year. The first football game they lost was because Saquon Barkley dropped a 99% pass that was in his hand for a first down to beat Atlanta. I get it. It happened. We were healthy. We lost the game at home. That's on us. The second football game we lost, no Lane Johnson, no A.J. Brown, no Devontae Smith. We're missing our whole goddamn team. We got our ass beat in Tampa Bay. Injuries happen. No argument there. In the third football game we lost, we had our backup quarterback in the entire game, and Devontae Smith dropped a 99% ball to lose the game. So, like, yeah, right, I get it. They're 16-1 with 299% catches. And then they went through the playoffs, and outside of the snowball that happened with the Rams, every game was dominant. They beat Green Bay by 12 points. They beat Washington by 30 points, and they won the Super Bowl by 18 points. And we can all agree that it should have been more of a blowout. It's one of the best teams ever.
I think it's very in the moment, and it's very Eagles fan-like. But hey, I get it.
Fair. Can you come back next week and bring me 3 teams statistically better than this team?
I mean, statistics don't matter.
Skewed a little bit just because it's such a pass-happy league now, but
statistics don't matter.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I would have liked a little bit of time to
digest,
kind of look at it.
I mean, I like immediately I'm thinking about like obviously 15-1 Bear, like 85 Bears going 15-1, dominating. And I get it. It's different era. Think about like some of the Tom Brady teams like that ultimately won where you got, I mean,
the best Tom
6,
Brady
7 Hall of Famers. The best 07
did not win.
07, yeah. But I mean, before, like, I'm thinking about like teams that had like Tyler, Rodney Harrison, Bruce, like so many Hall of Famers on the defense. Maybe the offense wasn't there. And again, it's not talent. It's not talent. It's
Chase chimes in. The 2019 Chiefs is your argument. With Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce in their prime. That's your argument.
I think we're looking at it from a talent standpoint. Like roster for roster, if we're looking at it for Madden, like highest overalls, then yeah, I mean, this Eagles team will be up there.
All right. Well, I know I'm getting a little bit. Do you want to talk about the negative or the positive? And I'm going to give you an example of what I mean in a second. Both these questions, you guys don't know they're coming, but I want to ask you the negative or the positive. I want you to pick. I don't care what you pick, but we're going to do it.
I'd rather pick negative first.
Okay, negative first. Here's the negative, right? Patrick Mahomes loses the Super Bowl. He's 3-2 in Super Bowls now. He has 3 championships. We are going to talk about, before this game was started, if he three-peats, people are having the argument and debate, are we putting him ahead of Brady? I'm not saying you guys are, but that's a conversation that's already happening. So now my question is, right now, you can project, you can think about what you want to do, but right now, as it stands, where is Mahomes on the mountain of all-time great quarterbacks? Has he already surpassed Peyton Manning and his 2 Super Bowl rings? Has he surpassed the 4-0 Joe Montana? Has he surpassed 2 Super Bowl John Elway? Going into the season, I had him 6th. I said, you got to do a little bit more. It's to another Super Bowl, right? He's 5 Super Bowls. Now, obviously, I think he has a trajectory to pass any of these guys. But where is he ranked now, in your opinion?
For me, if he won, he would have been at 2. Because he lost, he's at 4.
4. So you have him behind Peyton still.
Yeah, I mean, I have him behind Peyton, and I think that it's tough because, I mean, I think that can change at literally any moment. Like, I think if he wins another MVP, like, I think then we're having different conversation. But him having 2 and 3, like, I mean, he's right there. But, I mean, obviously at this point, we're only talking about 7 years of Pat when we're talking with Peyton, 15, like, prime years of him. So, that's why, for me, he's right there at 4.
He's not wrong. Billy Brancato said took a devastating freak injury last year for them to beat the 49ers. I said that on the sideline Thursday. If Drake Greenwell does not pop his Achilles running off the sideline, there is no way the Chiefs win that football game. It opened up the middle immediately. Look at before the injury, after the injury with Travis Kelce, statistically. I'm telling you right now, that changed the game more than anything. San Fran, you cannot tell me if he does not pop his Achilles running off the sideline, San Fran doesn't win that Super Bowl. You can't. I will not listen to it.
I mean, San Fran still scored 22 points. I mean, I think Drake Greenlaw doesn't play offense. So, I mean, I think the game may look different, but I can't say for certain that San Fran wins.
I mean, their offense came to life, man. I mean, it was like a whole lot of things they didn't want to call, they started calling.
I'm amazed that you remember the exact amount of points they scored. That's incredible. That's a very I'm serious. I just Googled it real quick.
He's got that young brain still.
Tom Gallo has the same list you do: Brady, Montana, Peyton, Patrick.
Yeah, and if you would have won, I would have had him at 2.
Fair. So you have both if you want.
As much as it pains me because I'm an Elway guy and I'm not, I again have been the one on the show that's consistently pumped the brakes on the greatest ever and blah 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 with Mahomes after winning 2 Super Bowls. But I mean, getting to the 5th one in 7 years, I guess it is, 6 years, whatever it is. I mean, he's got to be on there. I mean, Elway only has 2. He has 3. He got blown out in 2. But again, I mean, I think winning them has to matter. He's got more than Elway, so he'd be 4 for me.
Okay. So you have him behind Manning and Montana. I have him 3rd now behind just Montana and Brady. I have him passing Peyton, and that's fine. You can have him below Manning or ahead of Manning. I can hear that either way. I'm like Cantrell. Like, it could go either way for me. I can kind of see that. 7 years and 7 years in a defensive offsides and a drop pass from being in a Super Bowl you see, all right, so hold on. I have him surpassing Manning too. But you can't do this, Chase. And I'm going to explain to you why you can't, right? You can't say a drop pass and a defensive offsides from being in every Super Bowl because you've had a lot of things. The Chiefs have. Yeah. So for every argument you make, well, no, that's fair. But for every argument you can make for he had things that go against him, I can make an argument for things that went for him.
Well, we can't let it slide sometimes and not let it slide other times. Like you guys just told me about the Eagles and the drop pass away here and a drop pass away there from being 16-1. Like, we can't say it's okay sometimes for the hypotheticals and then the other times it's
That's
not.
Fine, but can you give me a hypothetical that the Eagles would have lost the game?
I mean, off the top of my head right now, no, but I mean, it happens. Like, there's stuff that happens in all these games. I'm just saying we can't use hypotheticals sometimes and
RJ's right. Times. Manning got gifted his last Super Bowl.
He did. He definitely did.
He did. I think the one thing that we haven't brought up yet that I think a lot of people give Manning a boost for is because he had to play against Brady in his prime. And that was constantly the hurdle that he had to get over. Mahomes is Brady in this situation. And until one of that plethora of guys that we constantly talk about in the AFC consistently start beating him and getting into it, that is why Manning gets the bump that he did, because he had to go against the GOAT every single year to get there.
All right, guys, I need everyone to do me a favor real quick, right? I got this thing where I can't share because I share so much. Everyone in the chat, everyone on Facebook, please do me one solid. I'd really appreciate you. Hit the like button real quick. Just hit it real quick. Just hit it like once or 2 times, and then share it out to your page. If you don't mind doing that, and if you want to be really cool, just tag followers. I'd really appreciate that. We are constantly growing weekly, and we're fighting against last week's numbers. So if you could help us out, thank you. Back to the conversation. So we all know where we have them at. They've commented in the columns where they have them at. And Gallo, I don't agree with that. And you'll have a list. I'm making a graphic right now that Shally said this a few years ago. I don't agree with that. I don't think either one of them are comparable players. I think Josh Allen's best comparable player is John Elway, and we'll get into that. And it's actually playing perfect right now to what I've put out. John Elway constantly was the bridesmaid, never the bride, just like Josh Allen. But we'll get to that. Mahomes is Michael Jordan. He's totally different. It's nothing that you've ever seen before. And I'll keep saying it. I've said it for 4 years. He's different. He's not what you've seen before. And if they're Michael's first three-peat, if you said he was the greatest player of all time, you'd be an idiot. But I project him being the greatest quarterback ever to live when it's all said and done. That's my opinion. I'm allowed that.
Michael never got blown out twice.
You're right.
He's more LeBron. He's more LeBron James than Michael Jordan.
I guess we can hear that. We'll talk about that. But I do have a question for you guys about the officiating, and then we'll get into the good. Or I said bad, good. The officiating in this football game. I want to be very clear when I say this. I'm a homer, right? I'm absolutely a homer. I watch the game with green goggles on. I ask other people's opinions on the game. The OPI on A.J. Brown was absurd. Never should have been called. However, the personal foul that got called on the next drive for the Eagles and that gave us a first down, it was like a high pass to Dallas Goedert over the middle, and you guys obviously going for the ball. Helmet connects to helmet. I get it. By letter of the law, it could be a penalty. His helmet hit the other guy's helmet, defenseless receiver. Don't believe it should have been a penalty. Then, you snap infraction. 4th and 3, the Eagles get called for a snap infraction. When in reality, you watch the replay and the Chiefs were offside. This is not a snap infraction. The snapper did not have.
The center moved his head.
He did.
There's 3 snap infractions. Which one are you talking about?
You said it was on the field goal attempt, correct?
On all 3 of the snap infractions, it was on a field goal attempt. They backed Jake Elliott up 3 times.
I
feel
like you said it in the chat. You said it in the chat, like in our group message. You're like, they didn't move. It should have been offsides. Bill said the center moved, and then I agree with that.
That was the first one. It was the first one.
Okay, so the 4th and 3 is the one I'm speaking about. I felt like that was a bad call. But with that being said, I thought it was an absolute terrible call to call personal foul against Saquon Barkley, who was hit late, right? I felt like the game was called shitty calls on both ends, right? As an Eagles fan, did we get all extra call? It's possible. I'm not going to pretend that we didn't, right? No, I'm serious. I'm trying to be a guy that's. But for DeAndre Hopkins to go in the media and talk about, are you going to talk about the refs? You guys were down 34-0 at one point. And DeAndre Hopkins, listen, I don't think outside of Cottrell, I don't think there's been a bigger DeAndre Hopkins fan than me. I've rooted for him his whole career.
I've loved Nuke forever.
This was an awful showing for DeAndre Hopkins. He dropped a ball that was an obvious touchdown. Like you watch the all 22 on that play. I really want you to watch it. There's no Eagle within 20 yards. That is an insane. It's a blown coverage. He is wide open and he trips. The turf monster gets him. He dropped a ball that is an obvious touchdown, and it changes the course of the game. Instead of it being 24-0, it's 24-7. The Chiefs going in the half. They're getting the ball to start the second half. That is a real thing. How did you feel like the game was officiated from an outsider's point of view? Cottrell, Sally, I know you're wearing the green goggles just like me. I get it. I would like to hear your opinion too.
I mean, I do think you had bad calls both ways. And I mean, I think the Eagles found themselves on a better hand, like the better half of the calls. But I mean, it wasn't crazy swayed one way or the other. I do think it felt like from the jump, it was going to be after that OPI call. That OPI call was awful. Like I get it. He smacked him in the helmet, which as an official, if you're on the sideline and you see that like contact, then I guess I can understand it. But this is this isn't just the playoffs. This is the Super Bowl. So for me, I'm like that call is awful. But then like Godfrey said, though, I mean, I thought that I even said it in the chat too. I was like, as soon as that call happened on Goddard, I was like, oh, makeup call. Hey, now the playing fields are back equal and everything's all good to go. So like I said, I mean, there was some calls that I feel like, went the Eagles direction there, but as a whole, though, it wasn't anything slanted too crazy. And for Nuke to go up to the press conference, say that afterwards, it's wild to say after you got blew out the way that you did. But like, it's one thing if it's a close game and you lose and then that happens. And I know they had been hearing about it for the last 2 weeks. They were getting all the questions about it at media day and all that stuff. So like, it probably had been festering in his head for a while there. But to come on and say that after that game, like that's nuts. That's absolutely nuts.
And one of the biggest no calls in the whole game was the Chiefs' first touchdown. Xavier Worthy scoring that touchdown. I want you to watch that play. If you watch Chiefs' first touchdown in the Super Bowl, all I want you to do is watch Brandon Graham on the play. He is absolutely corralled. It is one of the most blatant holdings you'll ever see in your life. Like they literally have him around his neck. It's insane. I think there was missed calls on both ends. I'm an Eagles fan, so I just want to kind of get someone else's opinion on it. But Shally, did you feel like it was called 50-50, 60-40?
I think when it's all said and done, the one thing I did like is I thought it was weird they were ticky-tack with like the snap infraction stuff, but in regards to a lot of the other stuff, I feel like they let it go a lot, and I think there was a couple they called, obviously, that I think in hindsight that they probably would pick up if they could, but I think the most important part of it was we came out of the game not talking about them, and obviously the blowout helps to that, but you weren't like, we didn't have the situation we had 2 years ago. You didn't have anything like that. There wasn't any that call changed the game. Like there was none of that. Like you said, we had the first call, then you had the makeup call. And after that, I thought it was, the holdings and stuff like that. If it was egregious, they called. If not, for the most part, I think they let them play. So, I don't really have any gripe. For Nuke, I was definitely disappointed because, again, the guy that I kind of always rooted for, down in Houston, he was on those bad teams. Then he finally got out of there, went to Arizona, but finally have a chance to play. And I guess for him, knowing already that he was going to retire at that point, to kind of be in that Super Bowl and be on the Chiefs and figure you probably sneak out the back door with a ring and three-peat and ride off into the sunset. I think he was probably just emotionally probably devastated, and to sit there and watch it and play, that's the hard part about that too. We opened the show with, when did you think it was over? Those guys got to go out and play still when they're down 34-0, knowing that this is over. And you got to go out there and, and go through the motions and all that. So I think it's unfortunate for him. I think he was just upset, but still, kind of a shitty take to have when you get blown out.
DeAndre Hopkins retired, by the way. DeAndre Hopkins retired after the game.
He did. He came out. He let Andy Reid know after the game that he wasn't coming back. But so it was, again, the biggest thing for me was we came out of the game not talking about them. So that's a win for me.
All right. So I do have another question, and I'm going to let you guys guide this question on which way you want to do it. I have two ways to ask it, right? I would love your opinion on both, but we don't have time, and I don't want to go through it on both. Obviously, accolades based. Jalen Hurts is, to me, he's like, if you're talking about greatness and the best quarterbacks in the NFL, I have him 5. Shao, you have him 5 too, right? You have him behind the big 4, right? That's it.
Are you talking, or what are we talking about here?
Like on your quarterbacks ranking list, where do you have Jalen?
Everything included?
I mean, yeah, that's the quarterbacks ranking. You're ranking the top quarterbacks in the NFL.
He's probably right around there.
And Kishore, you have him 6, right? You have him 1 behind Stafford.
Yep, I can have him at 6. I can have him at 5. You give me a good argument, I can easily move him to 5.
Okay.
Somewhere on that.
Here's where I want to, the question I want to ask. And this is like where I want to kind of gear off. And I'll let you guys decide. I want to ask this question because don't take this the wrong way. I don't want to be like, Jalen Hurts is big time player, big time moments. Very good quarterback. I have him 5 as far as rankings go. But I'm going to ask you one of 2 questions. I'll let you decide the way you want me to ask it. Do you want me to ask you how many quarterbacks would have won the Super Bowl if you replaced Jalen Hurts with that quarterback? Or, like, I'm serious. Like,
I know what you're saying. I get what you're saying. But what's the other one, though? Before we get there, what's the other one?
The second one would be, if you were starting a franchise today, would you take this quarterback or this quarterback, Jalen Hurts edition? So I'll let you choose what you want to do, but I'm going to do one of the other.
Both of these questions are what's wrong with this city. I'm just letting you know.
First of all,
both of these questions is what's wrong with this city.
No, it's not.
It is. The first one is demeaning as shit. The dude just won the Super Bowl MVP, and you want me to list off the guys that you think could do the same job that he did? That's a shit question.
It's the debate, shall we? It's the debate amongst, is it Hurts or is it the team?
What's the real part of the debate? Because if we start listing,
all right, so you replace Jalen Hurts with Josh Allen. Did the Eagles win the Super Bowl?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what I'm asking. How many quarterbacks, if you replace Jalen Hurts with Matthew Stafford, do the Eagles with this team win the Super Bowl?
Yes.
Okay, so like that's the question I want to ask.
Well, what
how
Super
many
Bowl
quarterbacks
can't you
will
do
win
that
Super Bowls with this team?
What Super Bowl can't you do that with?
No, not the game. I'm talking about the season, the whole season. If you were
like, instead
of Jalen, this is your quarterback. So how about we do starting your franchise tomorrow, Jalen Hurts or? Because I feel like you're going to get real nitpicky over the things. Like, bro, I'm not trying to be a jerk when I say this, but if you replace Justin Herbert with Jalen Hurts, does that team win a Super Bowl?
Yes.
Yes.
So, like, how deep does that go? How low is that number? Jared Goff.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, so how low does that number go? Jordan Love.
Probably, yeah.
It's probably that's probably where your line is. Like, depending on where you have Jordan, you're probably in the 10 to 12 range.
But, like, that's my point. Like, there's about 10 to 12 quarterbacks that could have won the Super Bowl with this Eagles roster. I'm not saying that Jalen didn't have to be a top 5 quarterback, like, isn't a top 5 quarterback. I'm just asking the question. We'll ask the question a different way. So I will ask you.
Why is God like I don't understand. I don't understand what's going on in the comments here.
Godfrey is Jalen Hurts number 2 in the NFL quarterbacks. He thinks Jalen Hurts number 2 in all quarterbacks. So that's
even CJ said no to Herbert and no to Goff. Like I don't the way the Eagles defense looked and the way Saquon Barkley was playing, like, and it's not a knock on Hurts at all. Like, I'm just saying, like, remember when we talked about the numbers with the Baltimore Ravens team or like the Miami Hurricanes team from like the early 2000s? Like, oh, they would have been 8-4 if their offense never took the field. Like, the Eagles defense was like that level of good. And Saquon Barkley was that level of good. We're talking about him breaking the rushing record. It's not to say that, Jalen Hurts is a slide or anybody else could have done this job. But Jalen Hurts himself this year had a top 10 year himself.
All right.
He had a great playoff run as well.
I don't disagree, but how many great teams, like at the end of the year, most of the teams that win the Super Bowl are great teams. There's levels to it. But again, that's what I'm saying. You can do this almost every year. You can take Tom Brady off and pick 8 or 9 quarterbacks that would have won Super Bowls with him.
I disagree. You could not take Tom Brady off a lot of those Patriots teams, and they would have won Super Bowls. I disagree. The way he commanded the huddle, the way
you don't think they win with Peyton Manning?
Maybe with Peyton.
Ben Roethlisberger?
Go further. No.
Yes, I mean,
no. Tua couldn't do it. I agree. Tua would be a no.
Tua would be a no on my list too.
All right, so let's take it a step further, right? You're starting a franchise tomorrow. You have one season. I'm lying. Let me just do this better. Yeah. You're starting a franchise tomorrow. And for 1 year, you have to win a Super Bowl. Are you taking Jalen Hurts or? Is that fair?
Yuck.
So I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you a quarterback. And you have to win a Super Bowl. First year. 1 year only. Are you taking Jalen Hurts or? Is that fair? Do you guys understand the question?
I do. My list is going to be short, by the way. So
that's fair. That's fine. Do you want Jalen Hurts or Jordan Love?
Jalen.
I mean, it's Hurts now. I mean, I'm not saying Love's not good, but the fascination with him over one playoff game is I've been that way from the get-go with Love.
Okay. Jalen Hurts or Justin Herbert?
Jalen.
Yeah. I mean, he's proved it now.
Okay. Jalen Hurts or Jaden Daniels?
Jalen.
Okay. Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson?
Lamar.
This is where they start getting complicated.
That's the whole point. I lead into the complication.
I know.
There's the only 4. We know the 4. There's only 4 in the game that I'm taking over Jalen Hurts.
Okay. Well, I'm going to ask you another one soon.
I'll take Jalen.
Jalen Hurts or Matthew Stafford?
Now Jalen Hurts.
Agreed.
Jalen Hurts or Josh Allen?
Josh Allen.
I'll take Allen.
And then Jalen Hurts or Joe Burrow?
Joe Burrow.
I'll take Hurts.
You take Hurts over Burrow? I get it. I'm not. I wouldn't take her. So we have our rankings of top 5 quarterbacks are totally messed. They're totally different.
They're not. It's like we're starting to have this negative. Like we're starting to do this negative, like thing with Burrow that he's playing on shitbag teams, and that's not the case. Like you go player for player, like offense, like he's had amazing offenses and not gotten it done. He got to the Super Bowl and didn't play great. He has one Super Bowl appearance. I'm not just going to keep giving him a free pass to say he's freaking number 2 year after year after year with a Super Bowl appearance from 8 years ago. Like, at some point, he's got to do something else.
I'm not getting into I'm in too good of a mood. And I'm telling you guys right now, this is the problem that we constantly get into this. We view things differently, and that's fine. If you don't think situations for quarterbacks matter, we're not going to see eye to eye.
That's my point. You're making that Joe Burrow plays in this bad situation. And that's just not the case. It's not the case.
Joe Burrow would be playing for the Eagles.
I'll say this. I think we'd be having.
Joe Burrow's had great teams and not gotten it done.
I think we'd have a very different discussion if Lamar, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Herbert, if all these guys play in the NFC, I think we'd be having a different discussion. But the fact that all these guys, only one of them has to get through Pat. Like, only one of them can get through Pat. Like, because Pat's going to be in the AFC Championship every year. I mean, he's 7 for 7 at this point.
Jalen Hurts was in the AFC. This Philadelphia Eagles team would have ran through the AFC.
Agreed.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying year in and year out for 7 years. Like, you can talk about this team getting through the AFC this year, which is fine. Like, I agree with you, but I'm saying that year in and year out, no matter how good the Chiefs' offensive line is, no matter how bad their defense is, receivers, whatever the case may be, Patrick Mahomes is going to be in the AFC Championship literally every single year. I'm saying that if Lamar and Joe and, all those guys were in the NFC for their entire career, I mean, you're able to, I mean, hell, Jay Daniels just went to the NFC Championship game his first year as a rookie. Like, that's what I'm saying, that the route is typically easier in the NFC getting there, like getting the opportunity to get there.
Now, see, I'm disagreeing with that. He belongs in the conversation. It's not that he stinks or anything like that, but it's Joe Burrow's become the chosen one to get to pass for everything. Like, we forget that for 3 years in a row, he lined up with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd and Joe Mixon. And no, let me finish. This is what you do. You like this whole, like, we've gone through this at the beginning of the show between Burrow and Herbert. And it's like, every time something goes wrong, and we all had to take our medicine with Herbert this year. But like that's what I'm saying. Like, we're making it sound like we're starting to twist it. Like, the national narrative is that Joe Burrow is playing on these shitbag teams, and he's not.
He is.
He was on a bunch of really good teams, and he couldn't beat them. He couldn't get it done.
He wasn't on really.
I'm not this one Super Bowl appearance is not going to be. I'm not going to keep on, like, he's not going to make the Mount Rushmore in 10 years because he made one Super Bowl. Like, nah.
Joe Burrow is what to the Bengals is what Dan Marino was to the Miami Dolphins.
That's exactly what he's going to be. And you know what nobody says? Nobody ever
says.
Never
had an offensive line. Never had a defense.
Ever.
Truth.
Hold on. Before we go talking that,
nobody ever mentions Dan Marino as the second best quarterback ever. No one.
I'm just saying, before we throw him in that category,
perfect example.
Can he get an All-Pro first? Like, can he get first or second team?
So,
like, can he get an MVP?
That's exactly what I'm talking
before
about.
Before we throw him in the Dan Marino range. That's all I'm asking.
Like,
offensive
so
line,
throw the team out of it. All pro is an individual award.
But okay, so
the numbers he puts up, he still can't even do that.
I don't want to argue
Patrick Mahomes look like an absolute civilian in the Super Bowl because his offensive line couldn't block.
I'm saying I don't want to argue that with you. I'm saying, why didn't Dan Marino win?
Because he didn't have an offensive line or a defense.
Okay, that's fair. And I agree with you. Like, I 100% agree with you there. I'm saying, though, Dan Marino still has an MVP award. He was still total a 6-time All-Pro. I'm saying that Joe Burrow needs to get there first before I throw him in that category.
Okay,
that's all I'm saying.
In Dan Marino's era, they need the second or third or fourth best quarterback that played against him.
I mean,
that would be taking those All-Pros or MVPs away from him.
I mean, John Elway in the mix.
John Elway never won an MVP.
Fact. There we go. Thank you.
I'm just saying, but he's in that range though. Like, he's in that era.
John Elway played with Dan Marino and didn't win an MVP.
But he also won a Super Bowl. Like, you have to do one or the other.
He went to 5.
When you look at the situation that's in Cincinnati and you can't realize that offensive lines matter way more than wide receivers. I don't know. I can't teach you.
Gene, I'm saying that it's mattered. The NFL dates back to the early 1900s. Like, we've been in the Super Bowl era since 64, 65, whatever year it started there. I'm just saying that in the history of the NFL, we've never talked about a quarterback with no All Pros, no MVPs, no Super Bowls. Like, we've never talked about them in the same regards that we have with Joe Burrow.
I'm sorry, I have eyes. I apologize.
So you're saying he's the first one. He's the first one ever with no. He's the first one ever with no accolades that belongs in these conversations.
I have eyes. I apologize.
I'm asking. That's what I'm asking. Is he the first quarterback ever to not have accolades that belongs in this discussion?
Sure.
All right.
I don't know what to tell you. I have eyes. I can watch the guy play quarterback. I can see what's wrong with the team. That Cincinnati organization, you know what the worst is? When you get drafted to an organization, that's a death sentence. And that's exactly what happens when you get drafted to Cincinnati, Chicago, Jacksonville, Carolina. These are death sentences for quarterbacks. That's not their fault that they get drafted to these situations, but Joe Burrow has made more with an awful organization than any quarterbacks ever made with Chicago, any quarterbacks ever made with Jacksonville, any quarterbacks ever made with Carolina.
That's about their quarterbacks.
Carolina went 15-1 with Cam Newton, and he won MVP and went to the Super Bowl. So yes, it is a lie. With Kelvin Benjamin as his receiver, Greg Olsen was his tight end. Like,
Greg Olsen's
Cam
a top
Newton
15 tight end of all time.
But Cam Newton would literally kill his firstborn to have the receiving core Joe Burrow had.
And Joe Burrow would kill his firstborn to have an offensive line like Cam Newton had. So you can, or a defense like that Cam Newton. That was a Sean McDermott defense. That's how Sean McDermott got hired in Buffalo.
But you're talking about literally comparing. Oh, so you're saying that the Cincinnati offense was worse than the Carolina offense? Like, if that's
what I'm saying is, if you don't have an offensive line, your receivers don't friggin' matter. You don't have time to throw the football. Patrick Mahomes, did he not look like a civilian to you this week? Did he not look ordinary?
But you just told
me he puts up monster numbers every year.
You just told me the Eagles
throwing it up and they're catching it.
Not even that, but you just told me the Eagles have the greatest team of all time. So of course he's going to look pedestrian against that. Like, if we're talking about a top 5 team of all time here, I mean, who wouldn't look pedestrian against that? If that's what you're going to get at there.
Okay.
I'm just saying Cam Newton. We don't talk about Cam Newton anywhere close to how we talk about Joe Burrow, and he falls under that same category of dumpster fire organization. Team wasn't built around him. Bad coaching. Made it to a Super Bowl and got an MVP. But I'm just saying we don't talk about Cam Newton in that regard ever.
Look, we're not going to disagree. We're not going to agree, and that's fine, and I'm okay with it. And that's perfectly fine with me. We're just not going to agree. Kellen Moore, or any other Super Bowl conversations that we're missing? 48 minutes on it, so. I agree with you, CJ. I agree with you. But wins matter, and his defense stunk, and he lost games 41-38. But whatever, done. Hence why Marino is one of the fastest releases of all time. So Derek says you agree that the Eagles are a top 5 team of all time.
I'm just using the argument. That's all.
It's fair. Jalen to be recognized as a top quarterback. No, he's no statistics, bro. That's the problem.
Jalen Hurts top 5, top 6 in the league. Like, that's not.
I have him 5.
I think that's a top QB in my mind.
I have him.
No,
I have him 5. That's where I have him 5.
And I got him 6. And like I said, by August, and this time in August, I've sat on it. I might have him 5. Like, I don't think that's a slight to Jalen.
I have Joe 2. Shally a week ago had Joe 2. Now he's saying he's not good. I don't get it.
Never said that. Never said
you had him 2. You had him 2 a week ago.
I still do. I never said that. I never said he was a bad quarterback. All I said is I'm tired of this. Like there's this protective bubble about Joe Burrow. You can't say anything bad about him. Like, I'm looking at right now. His offensive line this year was ranked 12th. What's the excuse? It's always something. We're saying the same thing to you that you said about Herbert for the last 3 years.
Here's the problem, though, Shally. Quarterback,
no, there's no problem.
You believe
you don't like the narrative of it. That's the problem.
It's not a narrative. You believe that winning is a quarterback stat, and I do not.
We talk about him like
you believe that quarterbacks have a winning is a quarterback stat, and I do not. That's the difference. It's not a joke. You believe quarterbacks is a winnings is a quarterback stat, and I do not. That's the difference. Because it's the truth. It's not a stat.
All right, so
winning is not a quarterback stat.
Over Tom Brady.
What?
You're taking Dan Marino over Tom Brady.
Bro, I told you this before. I think Dan Marino is more talented than Tom Brady.
So you're taking Dan Marino over Tom Brady, yes or no?
It depends in the situation.
Take the Super Bowls and wins away. They don't matter. Who you taking?
Listen to me. Dan Marino was a better thrower of the football than Tom Brady.
Dan Marino.
If Dan Marino was on that
page, who are you taking? Dan Marino or Tom Brady? Who you take to start a franchise?
Because Tom Brady, Dan Marino.
There you go. Fine. That's wild.
To start a franchise, Dan Marino. If Dan Marino was on that Patriots team, if Dan Marino got drafted in that Patriots situation,
if Peyton Manning was on the Patriots team,
he'd have 10 Super Bowls.
If Aaron Rodgers was on that Patriots team,
Aaron Rodgers is not a leader. It's a different thing.
You got Bill. Bill is your leader. Bill is your leader. So it doesn't. You got Belichick there.
Aaron Rodgers
Patriot way or no way. I agree with you.
I don't think he's a leader. Rodgers. I mean, you look at some of the tapes of like what happened in those games, like.
But I'm not talking. We're talking about having eyes. We're talking about having eyes and talent. Like Aaron Rodgers is, if he's not one, he's a top 3 thrower of the football of all time. If we're doing strictly eye test, no numbers, no leadership, no intangibles,
top 5
no nothing. He is a top 3 thrower of the football of all time.
He is. You're absolutely right. But the problem is this, right? Playing quarterback and ranking quarterback in the NFL should not be 3 things. It should not be 4 things. You should be ranking a quarterback on 12 to 15 different things. You should be looking at what they do as far as their accuracy, their arm strength, what they do in clutch moments, winning percentage is part of that, but it's not a quarterback stat. It's part of it. But the biggest issue that you run into when you rank quarterbacks is you go, well, this guy won, so he's better than the other guy. And the teams matter. If Patrick Mahomes replaced Jalen Hurts, if Patrick Mahomes was on the Eagles this week and Jalen Hurts was on the Chiefs this week, the Chiefs win by 100. I mean, the Eagles win by 100. It's not like, look, I love Jalen Hurts. I think he's a great quarterback, but you can't just go, oh, okay, Jalen won, so he's better than Patrick. You can't do that. And that's essentially what we do when we look at quarterbacks in different situations. We got to move forward. Anybody want to yell and get your last word, and I'll be the person that says
my only thing is that I don't want to look at it as like, it's tough to have these conversations when they always end up in what if this or what if we change there or what if we swap there. Like I can only go off of what I've seen so far. That's the last thing I'll say about that.
It's fair. All right. Kellen Moore is hired as the head coach of the New Orleans Saints. Is that that's official, right? It's been official.
Yes.
It's announced.
Yeah, signed.
I don't care about that. The Saints stink. They're dumpster fire. It's an awful hire. I don't think Kellen Moore actually coached a good game in the Super Bowl, if I'm going to be honest with you. If you want my own honest opinion, I think he actually coached a terrible game as far as an offensive coordinator goes. But it's tough to say that when the team puts up 40 points. But the truth is they were running out a bunch all friggin' week when they shouldn't have been. That's not for here nor there. Here's my question. Thea Kellen, I like that already. My question is, who do you hire as the offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles? The answer is Frank Reich.
That it is not. So I tell you right now, that's not the move you make.
That's a complicated hire.
Yeah, because if I'm Nick Sirianni, I say I can't make that move because as soon as you already were calling this very season, week 8 or 7, whatever week it was, we were calling for Nick Sirianni job. And if you have a guy who's already been a head coach in the past, he's already in Philadelphia, lore with winning the first Super Bowl and all that stuff. The minute Sirianni does anything that's questionable, everyone's going to be like, we want Frank Reich to be our coach. And the questions are going to be from the media. The players got to answer it. I just don't think you can make that move with Nick still being there. And
Nick won a Super Bowl in a lot of games.
I'll be honest with you. I don't think it
does
changes.
Have a lot of...
I don't think it next year. If week 5, if the Eagles start the season 2-2, the 5th week of the year, Nick Sirianni decides to go for 2 in a situation where he should have kicked an extra point, whether it's to go up 7 or go up 6, whatever the case may be, and the Eagles lose a bad game, I guarantee we come on this show and we're going to say, I know he won a Super Bowl. He's got to go. Like, I know for a fact that's how this goes.
I 100% will not say that for 2 years. When you win a Super Bowl, you gained yourself 2 years.
He definitely bought himself some time.
You gained yourself 2 years, 100%. I will not be saying that for 2 years.
I will say it's just I think it's a. I just wouldn't do it. That is a little part of it, but that's a complicated hire to bring him back here.
I don't. He's close with Nick. He's close with the organization. Yeah. Jeffrey loves him. I think it's a great hire. Here's the problem, though, right? If they promote from within again, it's going to be an issue. The number one person that's supposed to get the head coaching or the offense coordinator job for the Eagles is Kevin Patullo. He's a promote from within guy in the Eagles organization. That's a problem. And I'll tell you why it's a problem. Kevin Patullo was on the staff. He was the passing game coordinator when Brian Johnson was their offense coordinator and they couldn't pick up a goddamn blitz. I want no parts of that. None. I don't care how close he is with Nick Sirianni. I don't want him. And it sucks for Kevin Patullo. He might be a good coach. It doesn't matter. He can't be promoted from within. The other options, I'll give you options. You tell me who you'd hire.
I know who I want. But good. He's got to be on your list, probably.
Bobby Slowick?
He already got a job.
Did he? Where'd he go?
He did. He's the pass game coordinator for.
I'll hire him as
he literally just signed like either today or yesterday.
If they get,
Dolphins hired him as the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, he's leaving.
The Dolphins hire former offense coordinator Bobby Slowick as a senior pass game coordinator. The Eagles could take him right away.
If the Eagles call and say, "Hey, you want to be our OC?" He goes, "Bye, Miami."
Bobby Slowick is listed. Here are the top 5 candidates. Kevin Patullo. We all agree no, right?
No.
I know him. So
Frank Reich.
I would love Frank Reich. I feel like there's just gonna be weird stuff within the organization about it. That's all.
Okay. I don't.
But personally, I would love it. I like Frank Reich as a auxiliary guy, just not the head guy.
Josh McCown.
No.
Oh, you say no. Josh McCown's good.
Oh, no. Sorry. Sorry. No, I'm fine with that. I don't know why I thought about McDaniels for some reason. I'm sorry.
Jim Caldwell.
That'd be weird.
No on that.
I mean, that's one of the guys that's wants to interview for an offense coordinator job.
I wonder why.
Yeah, well, I can tell you why.
I mean, yeah.
Mike LaFleur. This is another name that's being treaded around. And this is another one. This is a great one. This is not listed, but I like that it's put it. Byron Leftwich.
I think that's one that would make sense to me.
To me, if it's not Bobby Slowick or Frank Wright, I riot.
What about Eric?
The enemy?
He's got a job too.
Yeah, but
he's QB coach. He's QB coach somewhere. Yeah, I think Vegas, maybe.
No, Chicago.
Chicago.
I'm almost sure he got hired. Chicago.
Yeah,
he's going to be the running backs coach.
Oh, running backs coach.
Yeah. That's what his past is. He was the running back coach from the Chiefs before he got promoted to IOC.
Yeah, I mean
that's his past.
I don't know. I don't know what the relationships were like inside the locker room, but I think Slowick, I think, is one that makes a ton of sense there. But I mean, I think with the way that the offense is, like, I think you want to get somebody that is either young or one of the guys who formerly played football. Like, to me, I feel like just the way that Kellen Moore, his game plan was, and I didn't necessarily love him as an OC before, like in LA, I thought he was fine there. I thought he was fine in Dallas too. And I thought he would have, eventually had this run to be a head coach. But I mean, why? I think if you can get a guy like Leftwich or you can get McConnell, you can keep those guys for 2 to 3 years. Like I'd want something I can build with, because if you go through this again, and I know you guys aren't worried about this, but if you go through this again, you win another Super Bowl. I know everyone's happy. You figure it out next year, but
then you got to go through another year with another OC. Jalen's had, I think it's been 6 straight years with a new OC every single year, like dating back to his college days. So at some point, I would personally want some stability there.
See, I feel like Leftwich is one of those guys, though. I mean, I feel like we felt like 2 cycles ago he was one of the guys that got looked over and really never got a shot. And, he was on that short list for all of us. They repeat next year, he's going to be at the top of everybody's list to get an interview again. And he's probably out the door.
Before we do trivia, I have one more statement for NFL, and then we're going to do trivia, and we're going to move on. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Okay. This is something that, and we can do NFL after trivia too. It's fine.
Oh, Godfrey, you don't want Chad O'Shea, trust me.
All right,
that you don't.
I want to read this to you, and I want your live opinion on this. I think it's one of the. I just want to get your live opinion on it, if you don't mind. And I'm sure you've heard it, but I'm going to read it anyway. After a few days, I've had time to reflect being a champion. I tried to feel how everyone made it seem to be a champion. And unfortunately, it was short-lived, 2 days to be exact. I've never been a champion at the highest level before. I thought my hard work would be justified by winning it all. It wasn't. My thrill for this game comes when I dominate. It's the hunt that does it for me. It's when the defensive back drops his head and surrender because he can't F with me. The intense battles, early mornings, late nights, sacrifices. I love putting smiles on people's faces. Don't get me wrong, but it just wasn't what I thought it would be. It's the journey that I love most, back to work. You guys know who posted that tweet?
AJ Brown.
Okay. What are your initial thoughts when you hear that?
I love it, but a lot of people don't like it.
You are going to vehemently disagree.
I'm going to tell you why. And this is, there are some people that the hunt and the prep is what motivates them. And it's when you get to the top and you win it, it's not that you don't appreciate what you have. It's your sole focus then turns to, I want another one. And what do I have to do to win another one? And there's people that think that way. And
he doesn't want another one, bro. That's literally what he's telling you in that. He doesn't care if he gets another one.
Back to work means
I would disagree with that. Back to work to me means he embraced it. He celebrated, did what he wanted to do, and he's getting ready for next year. That's
Can I tell you the way I read it?
Go ahead.
I read it that he doesn't want to be in Philadelphia. And I read it
not at all.
Well, can I give my 10 cents, please?
Yeah, I mean, we cutting off all night. Go ahead.
Do you want to reply the text that you said before we started?
What? That's fine. It still doesn't mean, okay, yeah. So I'm still talking, and that doesn't mean I don't want to be cut off after I keep re-saying everything.
Trout said something. He cut you off. Get finished. I'll stop.
No, I'm good. Go ahead. I'll let you go ahead.
Oh, brother. I don't know what's going on here, but regardless, I guess I'll throw in a comment here. Thing for me is that I don't think he was necessarily saying like he wants to get out, or I'm not even saying that, this is something where he may not have had ulterior motives with it. But for me, I look at it like, you talk about enjoying the hunt. I look at it as like, yeah, we won a Super Bowl. Yeah, it was cool. But I feel like I still have more in the tank. Like, This is great. I'm in the prime of my career. Like, it's been great, but there's still more to do. Like, if this was like the end for him, then I think that would be one thing. Like, if he was 31 and he said that, then I'd be like, all right, like maybe we need to have a different discussion here. But for him to literally be in his prime, and him to say that, like, I think he's like, yeah, this is cool. One, exactly, Godfrey. He wants a legacy. One doesn't make me a legend. I'm already a top 5 receiver in the game, but there's still more for me to do. And I also think a part of it could be that he didn't have a all-time great Super Bowl. Like, I mean, they didn't need him to, which is cool. But you get to that big stage, you want to have, especially as a receiver, and we see AJ Brown all the time, having different issues on the sidelines and having fits and We talk about his antics all the time there. Dude wants to win. And I say that all the time. I try to give every receiver benefit of the doubt until there's like a point of no return. So I think with AJ, he's shown you this is who he is the entire time. Dude wants to win more than everything. He also wants to be great. He wants to have his numbers, but dude wants to win. And I think this is just another way that he's showing that.
Yeah, like I look at it as like this is not comparable, but like he, if you look at Jordan, like Jordan won that first one after all the losing to Boston and Detroit, and you even look at him, he's like, I celebrated the first one, but then I realized like I had to go get better, and that's what. Again, the chase of it all is what fuels some athletes more than others. It's not, okay, I won one, I'm here now. Like, not that anybody's going to coast on this team, but I don't read that like anything close to he wants to leave the city, but I look at it like I remember when I first started playing like Thursday night softball, which is like the biggest nights where all the good players play. And I got on a team. We finally won one. I mean, I won my first one with them. And it didn't feel anything like I thought it was going to. And it was like we came off the field and everybody's like, all right, we get ready for summer to win again. And it's obviously it's nowhere near the same comparison, but I understand the thought process. And again, I think some people are motivated by different things. And we've seen that, with other great athletes. Like, Jordan, again, I'm not comparing AJ Brown to Jordan, but, you watch a documentary and everything about Jordan was almost like he got motivated by like spite and stuff like that. And Kobe was kind of the same way. And like, that's what some of these guys are. I took that as, he won it. It's over and done with. And, he kind of wants to get back to work and, kind of do his thing. We like to your point with AJ gets really upset when they lose. And when they're winning, usually he's usually a good team guy. So, I didn't take anything negative by it. Gene, I guess, read it a totally different way, but I don't think.
Can I tell you how I read it now? Am I allowed to? I'm just waiting.
Go ahead.
So the way I read that was he would much rather dominate and get the ball and be the reason the team wins and be able to possess the football and be the main attraction of the offense more than he wants to win. I don't know how you read that differently. He doesn't care about the win. He cares about dominating. He cares about being the best player. He cares about the ball being thrown to him. I don't know how you read that differently. And that's fine. If you have a different opinion, that's fine. I see a lot of people in the chat that have a different opinion. But here's the line that I want you to really focus on. My thrill for the game comes when I dominate. It's the hunt that does it for me. It's when the defensive back drops his head and surrenders because he can't F with me. That's the line I want you to read. I want you to hear that line and just try to see my point of view. It could be different. You could think in your mind that he just wants to go out there and win again. But if he goes out there and wins again with 75 catches and 1,000 yards, I'm telling you, it's going to be the same shit. It's going to be the same shit. It's going to be AJ's upset on the sideline. That's what it's going to be.
Of course it is. I mean, I agree with you on that point. I think that is the point, though. Like, that is the literal point. Like,
he would much rather be the number one option in New England than he would be as a second option in Philadelphia.
He's not the second option here.
He is. Saquon Barkley's first option.
Yeah, I mean,
he is.
I mean, I also think did he play all 16? Why is his numbers are low this year?
He missed 4 games with his hamstring pull.
So, I mean, I'm looking at it here, like 67 catches, almost 1,100 yards and 7 touchdowns. And like, I don't know how many games he missed, but
he missed 4.
I know you're looking it up. I know you're looking it up now, Gene, but like
maybe it's
2 years before you got 1,400 yards. Like, I think it's different having 1,400 yards, being a first or second team all pro caliber receiver, to having, 1,000 yards is good, but apparently it doesn't mean much now in today's NFL, the argument that we had a few weeks ago. So I think you can read it that way that you do, but I also think
if he had a better year this year and this was said, I would view it a little bit differently as well.
All right, it's trivia time, guys. You guys ready?
How many games did he miss?
He played 13 games. He missed the last game because they sat out. He was injured for 3. Sat out the last game when everybody sat out. You guys ready for trivia?
Mm-hmm.
This is a 12 one, and I did it for a reason.
I have a feeling you're going to steal my question.
Maybe.
I've had this question in my thing for like ever.
I might. It's already listed, so you'll see it in a second. The last 12 players
Well, that's not it.
to win Super Bowl MVP. The last 12 players to win. Now, keep in mind, if you say that obviously outside of Jalen Hurts won this Super Bowl MVP. The last 12 players after Jalen to win Super Bowl MVP. And if you say a player that's won it 4 times, it's just one name.
Right. Okay. I got you.
Am I allowed to take, or are we counting this one or no?
Jalen Hurts is not. It's Jalen Hurts won this MVP. Give me the last 12 players that won it before it.
Okay. Patrick Mahomes.
Got it. That's one.
For Pat, see who beat them in the year before that. Cooper Kupp.
Got it. That's
Tom
2.
Brady.
Got it. That's 3. Just gonna go quick at first. You guys are gonna have some tough ones though.
Trying to think of the Tom Brady got there.
These have been going year by year, which is wild.
Nick Foles.
Got it.
I'll go with the off the radar one. I'll go with Von Miller.
Got it.
You want to go off the radar? I guess, bro. Who? No, I'm saving him. Because you're not going to get that one.
I don't know which one you're thinking about, but God.
I'm going to go with. I'm trying to think. What can I get the year that this is cut off at? Because you said there's 4.
Last 12 players.
Yeah, because Mahomes and Brady
Not cutting the year off.
takes like 8 years.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Like, how far back are we going here?
The most recent 12.
Most recent 12. That's correct.
All right, so I'm trying to think who else won in that time frame. So who won in 19?
10 seconds.
All right, screw it. Because I don't have another name. I'll go Malcolm Smith.
That is correct.
Jerk. I knew that's all you were talking about. I will go with maybe the biggest one-hit wonder ever. I'll go with Joe Flacco.
Correct.
Oh, well, if he's in, then go Peyton Manning.
Incorrect. That is strike 1.
I'll go with my most loathed athlete. I'll go with Aaron Rodgers.
Correct.
Is that 5 for me?
Yes.
Okay, so if that's the year, then you're following that. Super Bowl MVP that year. Was it? No. Why can't I think about who won Super Bowl MVP that year? I'll go Drew Brees.
Got it. That's yes.
Ruh-roh.
You're missing 3 of them now. It's 5-4.
I think I have 2 more, but I cannot remember. I have 1 more for sure, but I cannot remember who won this other year.
Oh, well, if you really have 2 more, if this isn't it, then you're going to win. Pretty sure he won one.
Ten seconds.
I'll go with Eli.
That is correct.
Which is one of the ones that I had.
What's your other one?
I'm not ready to give that up yet because I don't know if it's a for sure one yet. So let's go 2011, 2012, 13.
Is it still going?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, 6-4. If you there's two.
Oh, that's right. You said 12.
Think of teams that.
Reason I did 12 was because it makes it fun for the reason.
You and your ulterior motives all the time.
Bro, I hate myself because
10 seconds. I thought you were giving an answer. That's why I didn't even clock it. But
was it Antoine Randall?
Nope. Charlie for the win.
Was it Ben?
Nope.
Bro. Brady. Bro, how far back are we? All right. I don't know how far back we're going, so I'll see. I'll throw this out. Deion Branch.
Nope. Are you ready for a hint? Anybody ready for a hint?
If it's not Deion, if Deion Branch is no, I'm getting the years together here.
Okay. Well, Shalley's up.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll take it. Yeah.
2 wide receivers. That left.
Oh, I got both, I think.
The 2 people left are both wide receivers.
Why can't I think of his name?
I think I have both, Gene.
Who made the catch in the Pittsburgh game? It has to be it. If it's not Ben, it's not Randall. Oh my God, why can't I think of his name?
Ten seconds. I've been really liberal with the time this time. I really have. Both of you guys.
San Antonio Holmes.
That's it.
Oh.
The other one's Julian Edelman.
That is correct.
Oh.
Julian Edelman won. Actually, very.
What year was that?
That was 20.
Is that 18?
The Falcons Super Bowl, isn't it?
That's 28-3.
Isn't it the?
I got it right here.
It's the 28-3, right?
He won
that crazy catch.
10 catches for 150 yards in Super Bowl 40 or 53. The one after the Eagles? Yeah, one after.
Oh, so the one against the Rams.
Correct. 10 catches for 141 yards.
The 20-3 Super Bowl.
It wasn't the Falcons game.
No, it was
13-3 one.
I thought, was it 13? I thought it was 20-3.
Oh, it might have been 23. I thought it was 13-3. Let's find out. Patriots versus Rams Super Bowl.
So who was 28-3 then?
That was the Falcons.
Brady. It was Brady, but it should have been James White. Is who it should have been. But
all right, fellas.
Santonio Holmes was the one that I had earlier, but I didn't know if he won it that year or did Hines win it.
That's where we're at. We're done trivia this week. Gentlemen, UFC card happened. Anything else football I'm missing? Anything else you want to go over football? I don't want to skip something.
3 Super Bowl predictions for next year, quick, and any bold statements before the year starts.
It's fair.
I
got here's 2 bold statements. Ready?
Okay.
The Lions don't make the playoffs. Is that a bold statement?
Yes, it is.
Okay. It's 1.
I got one.
Oh, I have the second one.
Kind of goes along with that one. I think the Bears win the NFC North next year.
Okay. My second bold prediction is the Chiefs do not make it to an AFC Championship game.
Ooh, that's almost the same as mine.
That's probably the biggest one.
Mine was they don't represent the AFC in the Super Bowl next year. So it's close. Jeans would be more shocking, obviously, if they don't make the AFC Championship game.
The rest of mine are player. Mine are all player related.
My last one's a player one.
At some point next season, I think the Browns and Cowboys come to a deal to send Myles Garrett to Dallas, and they send Micah Parsons back to Cleveland.
Mine was Micah Parsons doesn't re-sign with the Cowboys.
Another one I have here is Sam Darnold will be benched before Week 11 at wherever his new job is, or if he stays in Minnesota, whatever the case may be. I think by Week 11, that's a done deal for him. And then this is probably the boldest one. Aaron Rodgers will be the starting quarterback for the Los Angeles Rams Week 1.
Wow.
I have a crazy Super Bowl prediction. It's insane.
Okay.
On one side, it's not insane.
Why is it insane?
Because it's not from the AFC. It's not Buffalo. It's not Baltimore. It's not Kansas City. That's why it's insane.
I mean, I would leave, I feel like, 2 teams. But
all right, give it to us, Gene. Rip the Band-Aid off.
I like the Eagles versus the Chargers next year in the Super Bowl. I'll say this, right? For as much hate as I've given Justin Herbert, I bought into Jim Harbaugh's statement at the end of last year, and this is an offseason where they'll actually have cap space to be able to put a team around him. And I think they ship out Khalil Mack. I think they'll actually really be active in free agency. I think the culture is built. And I think you should be buying stock in buy low in Justin Herbert.
Are you saying that the Chargers win the division too? Are you double it up, or are you saying?
I saw a lot of people with that today saying that the Chiefs don't win the division next year.
I think the Chargers, Broncos, and Chiefs will all be battling for that division. I think the Broncos are in a great space. I think they're headed in the right direction. I think the Chargers are even in better space because they have a quarterback that's just a little bit more seasoned than Bo Nix, and they both have great coaches. Sean Payton and Jim Harbaugh have shown you they're good coaches. And I think that the Chiefs, this happens with every team that loses the Super Bowl. It's not a Chiefs thing. The 49ers looked absolutely tragic this year. The year prior, the Eagles looked tragic down the stretch. The year prior, like the teams that lose the Super Bowl normally have that Super Bowl loss hangover. I don't think it's Pat's not going to make his way back to the Super Bowl. I just think teams have, I think the Chargers will go out and get themselves a bona fide running back this year. I think they'll shore up the defensive line, and I think that they'll end up being in the Super Bowl contender from the AFC next year. So I have Eagles, Chargers.
I have Eagles, Baltimore. I have Lamar finally getting over the hump next year. Little I-95 Super Bowl.
I have the Eagles, and I'll say I have the Eagles over Baltimore next year. I think the Eagles go back to back.
Same.
I just looking at what you guys potentially may lose, like I don't want to say like it's very replaceable pieces because I mean Zach Bond's is an All-Pro Defensive Player of the Year, candidate this year. So like I don't want to slight him by saying that, but like a linebacker on that defense, I think is easy to replace.
I'll be very listen, at the end of the day, I think that a lot of teams have really high stock going into next season, and a lot of teams have a little bit low stock. And the teams I would pay for the over on is teams like the Chargers, the Broncos, the Bengals. Teams I would pay for the under on are the Lions, the Chiefs. I think you should be betting the under on the Cowboys no matter what that's at. I think they're going to have another off season. I'd also buy low on the San Francisco 49ers.
I was just about to throw them out there to see what you were going to say.
I think you buy low on them.
They're in a weird space right now.
I'm not going to lie to you. Just speaking of the 49ers, I know we got to move here. We got a couple other things to hit on here. Yeah, right now, if you're talking about trading Debo, Trent Williams is going to be another year older. CMC, I don't know what CMC we get back. If I'm Brock Purdy, I might not report to camp. Like, sign me or trade me. Like, I don't know if I can play this year and look awful on this team and then go into free agency next year. Like, I just don't know if I could do that.
Yeah, but if you're the 49ers, so let's play negotiator for 1 second for fun.
Okay.
If you're the San Francisco 49ers, all right, now you be Brock Purdy. Can I be the 49ers?
Okay.
All right, Brock, you're holding out. What do you want? What are you trying to earn this year? What contract do you want?
$200 million.
How many years?
However many you need to make it work. I don't need 200 million guaranteed.
I'll give you 7 years, 200 million. Taking that?
All right, cool. Give me 185
million a year.
185 guaranteed. It's done deal.
Okay, done. I do that. 7 years, 200 million. I get 185 guaranteed. I get them for 38 million a year or 28 million a year. Yeah, you're not doing that. No,
you're right. No, you're 100% right.
So 4 years, 200 million is 50 a year. That's what Matt Godfrey wrote. I'm not doing that. You're not worth $200 million over 4 years.
I agree with you.
5 years, 200 million with 140 guaranteed. You taking that? And if he doesn't take that, then yeah, go walk.
My thing is though, is that if you're San Francisco, I mean, the window is if it's not shut,
give Aaron Rodgers $40 million.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but don't tell me you pay him for 1 year next year. He can't come in and win with that team.
Correct.
I mean,
here's what San Francisco is going to.
Here's the thing.
Probably politely say to Brock Purdy, no one knows what you look like without Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, and C-Mac.
Here's the thing, though, Gene, with what you said. The NFL offseason is way before that. If I'm Brock Purdy, I'm playing it cool. I'm playing it cool up until August. Your options are limited in August.
Yeah, you're right.
You wait till August to pull that card, though, and like show up for mini camps and everything and don't say anything, and then wait till August to do that, you're going to lose a lot of people real quick to be on your side.
But it's not
business is business.
But it's not just Brock Purdy, right? Like it's Sam Darnold. Darnold, he could sign there for $40 million for 1 year. It's not just Brock Purdy. In that situation, that system with Kyle Shanahan, there's about 4 or 5 free agent quarterbacks that you can bring in there that will give you very similar production to what Brock Purdy is going to give you. So if I'm the 49ers, there's no way I'm giving him over 40, 45 million.
I'm just saying I wait till
35 on my ceiling with him.
I wait until August when you either have to say, hey, we're tanking this year or we're going to overpay you to be our quarterback. That I'm saying those are going to be your only two options if you wait until August to do so. Not even necessarily saying August per se, but after all the QBs are off the board. Because I'm sure Aaron and Sam and Russell and Fields, like all those guys have to find a home before that happens. So it's like, all right, well, if you want to pick up Winston off the street or if you want to pick up Flacco and have those guys be your leader this year, go right ahead. But I'm here. Either pay me or I'm going to sit out until you do. Or trade me.
There's no way Brock Purdy can play on the contract that he's on.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. You can't make $900,000.
We've already got away with getting him for $900,000 this year.
Exactly.
You can't do that again. I get it. But I agree in the same respect, if you're the 49ers, you can't pay him to.
I agree with you.
$50 million a year.
I agree with you. But I also thought Dallas couldn't pay Dak $60 million, and here we are. And someone's going to pay Sam Darnold a ton of money to play quarterback from them, which they have no business doing. I mean, it's just the day and age where we're at right now in the NFL.
All right, guys, we got to move. Hour and 30 minutes, all football. Like probably our last football show for a little. I mean, obviously, we're going to have football, like talk about things like big, but we're going to get really into basketball in the next few weeks. But before we do, we had a UFC pay-per-view that we need to recap. Now, I'm going to be annoying, and that's who I am. I'm always annoying. And that's I come up with these fun, stupid hypotheticals, and I already came up with it in the chat, so you kind of know what's coming right now. Zhang Weili absolutely dominated. And it was a masterclass for Zhang Weili over Tatiana Suarez. 49-46. I get it. You know, you could have gave the first round to Tatiana, but Zhang Weili dominated that fight. With that being said, and as we break down the fight, I'm going to give you the old start bench cut. And I'm very interested. Listen, I already seen where Shally is, and I like to hear the argument. I want to hear the argument. But I'm very interested to see if Cottrell stays consistent to what he has said on previous shows. And that's very important to me. I really want to see where he lands on this, right? Show me your wins. Show me your championship fights. Show me your big names. I want to hear where he has Zhang Weili. I'll start because it sounds stupid coming from me. Start bench cut. Valentino Shevchenko, Amanda Nunes, Zhang Weili. I'm starting Zhang Weili. I am benching Amanda Nunes, and I'm cutting Valentino Shevchenko.
See, here's before Control jumps in this, because I already answered
the
this.
funny thing is this, right? Charlie, you're going to go, and that's fine. The funny thing is this. I understand if you have Amanda Nunes over Zhang Weili. There's no argument for Valentina.
I think, I'm trying to say it like how I want it. Like, I feel like you're almost doing her a disservice versus what she's actually accomplished by putting her with those two people. Because I feel like outside of obviously putting Ronda in this, you kind of put her you put her against the only two people that you would really make arguments against her. Because I feel like if you take one of them out and put anybody else in, at worst, she's probably benched. So like I feel like she's great, and I think you could easily make the argument she's on the women's Mount Rushmore. But I think she's fourth. She's third or fourth. And the two that you put her in with, I think, are the two that universally I think people would put in front of her. That's where it's tough for me. But I'll let Cottrell go.
That's fair.
All right. So for me, you already know how I feel about Valentina.
I spelled Amanda Nunes' name wrong.
I mean, listen, as far as like the literal bigger picture, Amanda has to be your GOAT. I know what I say all the time about Valentina and how I think she got robbed that fight, and I'll take that to the grave. But for what she did,
her first
how dominant she was.
Loss? Just checking.
Who? Which one?
The first Valentina loss or the second Valentina loss?
I'm talking about the one where they fought for a belt.
I was kidding. I was just basically telling you that she lost twice. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I think that's part of it though. I mean, I think for Zhang Weili to lose how she did to Rose, I mean, and you could talk about the argument there. I would ask, do you want the domination, the first loss, the embarrassing loss, or do you want give it to you for the whole fight kind of loss? So I mean, we could do that with Rose there too, and I'd say Amanda is miles ahead of Rose Namajunas there. So I look at it like this: Valentina at the top of her game, at her peak, the only person in the world that could mess with her was literally Amanda Nunes, and that was with her going up a weight class. In flyweight, she was undefeated for 8 years. Valentina is my bench for sure. With Zhang Weili, she's dominated. She's great. Mount Rushmore for sure. I mean, there's no doubt about that as far as like the women fighters go. But she hasn't accomplished what neither of the other two have so far.
That's interesting that you say that. I just because you're basically going by peak, right? You're going by her dominance, her peak, right?
No, this is her entire career that I'm discussing here.
So
her peak was her entire career.
Zhang Weili has, I mean, in the UFC, she has 8 title fights. She's won 6 of them. She's 6-2 in 8 title fights. Outside of UFC, she has another 7. Her record, I get it. UFC is the genre, right? They are the end all be all. She's 26-3, and there's the reason I make this argument. The reason I ask this question. She's 26-3. Valentina, I think, is 25-4, and Amanda is, I want to give you the exact number, 23-5. So I have all their stats, all what they've done, their title defense wins and their losses. And I don't know. Juliana Pena beat Amanda Nunes. That's kind of an embarrassing loss. Is Juliana Pena on the same level as Rose Namajunas? Or we talk about Valentina, right? Alexa Grasso beat her twice. Is that something that
she beat her once? But yeah,
I get it. The split decision, Valentina won. I get it.
It was a draw, but
But you look at her losing to Nunes twice. She lost to Alexa Grasso, and now she's beat her the last time they fought, which is great. It's a really fun conversation. And I think Zhang Weili has entered that realm based off her 26-3, 25-4, 23-5. Title defenses are very close. Titles won are very close. These three women are 100% three of the top four women in the history of the UFC.
The difference being, though, that Shevchenko literally before last year, like before that loss to Grasso, for her actual division, because she went up, because if we're going to put context in it, she went up to fight Amanda in weight class. They had to fight a bantam because Amanda wasn't getting down to fly. So for 8 years, there was not one flyweight on earth that could beat Valentina Shevchenko. And we can't say that about, like, if Zhang Weili went up to fight Rose, that's one thing. But that wasn't the case. Like, I can't talk about it 8 years after the fact she lost to Grasso, and I'm not even excusing those losses, but I'm saying that was at the tail end of it. Like, we had 8 years leading up to that, and then not to mention she beat her after that. Like, that's how she got her belt back. So she's still where she's at, and we all know if it wasn't on Mexican Independence Night, like, we can act like that's a loss, but it ultimately is a draw on the scorecard. Everyone who saw that fight knows that Valentina Shevchenko won it. So we're talking about one loss to Grasso, which shouldn't have happened. It's an embarrassing loss for sure. And then we're talking about literally going up in weight class and losing to the greatest female fighter of all time. I think that's different than losing to Rose Namajunas twice.
But we're talking about blemishes on their unpenetrated. Like, so we talk about Zhang Weili, right? So I'm going to make a further argument. Do you realize since 2014, there's been only one female that's beat Zhang Weili in a fight? One. Since 2014. She lost her first fight. A lot of people don't know this. She lost her first fight in a 2-round unanimous decision in a China MMA league. Like, you can hold that against her. That's fine. It was in 2013.
Bro, don't give me, here you go with these Khabib numbers. You're talking about 3 years of fights when she was fighting in MMA leagues that we've never heard of. Don't you dare.
Wins in the UFC than Valentina.
I can hear she has more wins in the UFC than Valentina does.
Oh, no, I'm looking at UFC 200 numbers. Never mind.
Yeah.
You're right.
Okay, I know. But yeah, don't bring in these random MMA organizations.
I apologize.
Yeah, don't mix in these organizations where she's fighting people you've never heard of. Like, let's. I'm not saying UFC is the end all
fighting league.
I'm not saying UFC is always the end all be all. If it was one, if it was Bellator, if it was, like, there's plenty of other respectable MMA leagues, and the names do matter. But
Jessica Aguilera, Jessica Andrade, Joanna Jędrzejczyk.
She's got a great resume.
Amanda Lemos, Tatiana Suarez.
This isn't me knocking Zhang Weili. She has a great resume. Like, 100% has a great resume. I'm just saying, don't give me the fluff with the other numbers that don't belong in the same category.
I really feel like you took Khabib and you were like, all right, like, he's better than, like, Jones and, like, GSP. And obviously you can make arguments for that, but, like, I feel like you picked the two people that are probably universally, like, ranked above him. Like,
I think that the argument is Amanda and Zhang Weili. I think Amanda is probably my number one, and I just wanted to be the contrarian or the person that's the counter argument for Zhang Weili. Amanda Nunes is my favorite female fighter. She was so dominant, and she did it 135 and 145. She's probably the GOAT. I just wanted to see where you guys were at with Zhang Weili. I don't think there's a real argument for Valentina over Zhang Weili. I don't.
Bro, Valentina held the belt for 8 years. Zhang Weili has never seen a title defense longer than 3. Like, what are we talking about?
I mean, because you cut the middle of her title defense over with a bad stoppage versus Rose Namajunas.
Oh no, we're not doing this again.
Okay, but what about the rematch though? What about the
rematch? She won.
Decision?
Rematch. She won.
You won the rematch. That's fine. That's all you have. Rematches.
No. She didn't win the rematch. She lost the rematch. This is Josh Allen beat Patrick Mahomes. This is that argument. This is losers. Right. This is losers.
But hey, you just did this winning. A second ago with Valentina. It wasn't Mexican Independence Day. Everyone that watched that fight knew that Valentina beat it.
Because 100% was the case. You score any bro. Ref got fired for giving Alex Grasso a 10-8 fifth round, and this is not Rose and Zhang Weili. I get it. You're trolling. The arguments are here, but it's not close. Apples to tuna.
Sean Strickland versus Dricus du Plessis. Guys, I don't want to get on this. I
fight went exactly how I thought it would go.
I kind of wish that Strickland would have won the fight. Because we talked about this over at Adrian's house. I wish Strickland would have won the fight. And the only reason I wish Strickland would have won the fight is because the guaranteed next title defense is versus my guy, Khamzat Chimaev. Khamzat Chimaev would have beat the pulp out of Sean Strickland, and it would have been so much fun to watch. Just giving you my two. I think Khamzat Chimaev beats the pulp out of Dricus du Plessis. But with that being said, I don't think it's as fun to watch Dricus get beat up as it is to watch Sean get beat up.
I mean, I also think it depends on how he wants to fight. Like everything ultimately comes down to Khamzat. Like if he wants to beat people up, he can, but 9 times out of 10, he's going to get them to the ground and make them submit before you can even go to the fridge and grab a brew and get back to the TV. So it really depends on him. But yeah, this fight it went exactly how I thought it would go. We are in desperate times here. We need a new 170 champion. We desperately need a new 185 champ because these guys headlining cards, like it's the UFC is not in a good space in both those divisions. And I give them credit. Like I don't want to discredit them. I give Dricus and I give Bilal credit for winning and fighting who's in front of them because Dricus had to beat Izzy and Bilal had to beat Leon Edwards. So you beat some guys to get to where you're at. But as far as interest, as far as just style of fighting, we are in an awful place in both of those divisions. And that both of them used to be some badass divisions. So Khamzat winning is 100% what needs to happen in 2025.
100%.
Can we talk about Izzy for a second?
What about Izzy?
Like he's done.
Yeah.
What about Izzy?
He's done.
Okay.
It's crazy. That's a really
fast fall from grace.
It really is. Like that's a cliff.
I just, I don't know. Just Adesanya.
I get it. I mean, but like we're talking about a guy that was legit, debatably the face of the whole goddamn thing for a while. Like, I mean, uber popular, exciting fighter, and now like he can't win a prelim fight.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Which is part of the reason why 185 is where it's at right now. Because now you have Khamzat. Because I mean, Khamzat versus Izzy with the numbers that fight would have done, the lead up that fight would have been like, oh.
I'll tell you right now, the UFC wanted Strickland to win that fight because the lead up would have been incredible. The shit talk. Have you checked Khamzat's Twitter recently? Have you seen?
I had to go back and look at some of the stuff.
It is hilarious what he's doing to Sean Strickland.
But Sean Strickland has put himself in an awful spot, like knowing that, and it's not to say that a lot of the stuff that actually happened to him that he had to go through, like really is not a joking matter, but at the same time, he's put himself in that position because he crosses the line a lot of the time. So at that point, it's like rap beef, we didn't even talk about Kendrick in the Super Bowl, but once you cross the line, it's like, all right, you want to cross the line here, then nothing's off limits at this point. And Sean Strickland's found himself on the wrong side of that a few times.
I think he's becoming Colby, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I feel like I don't know how relevant he's going to be championship wise. He'll have good lead ups to fights because he can sell fights because of his personality and all the crazy shit he says. But I don't know how relevant he's going to be going forward in anything major.
Sean Strickland's bum. The fight was boring. Khamzat's going to run through the division. I'm excited for that. Anything else you want to talk about with this boring ass fight card?
I mean, the big thing is Khamzat better make weight. I know he went up to 185, but
he's got to make 185, bro.
Better make weight.
I don't think there's any issue with him making 185.
I hope not, because they don't lose his mind.
He would. That's the guy they've been literally sitting as the prodigy for forever, and he's just not been ready to step into that role, and that's his fault. Nobody else's. But let's get into some college basketball, gentlemen.
Do we have a date for that fight yet?
It's not. It's not signed yet, but Dana said that's next.
It's gotta be. I don't know what else he would try to feed somebody at this point.
And Drake probably doesn't need too much time. It wasn't like he got beat up in this fight.
Bro, I'm not gonna lie. As boring as that fight was, it was nuts to see how bad Sean's face was. Like his nose was disfigured.
Bro, he said it. He said it in the middle of the fight, bro. Like, listen, I don't like him. I don't like what he stands for. I don't like what he believes in. He's a tough dude, though. Like, I'll give him his due for that. To reset your nose, knowing you're gonna go out and get punched in again, I'd be like, I'm good.
Yeah, facts.
You're already cut up and bleeding everywhere. I'm good.
Let's get into college basketball. It's funny because what did you do on Saturday, right? There's no college football left. College basketball is now taking center stage, and there's some basketball games that happened on Saturday that shook the landscape of what's going on for college basketball. First Auburn loses early, and they lose to Florida. Good basketball game, very good basketball.
Was a good basketball game.
But them losing was huge, right? 90-81. So now you're like, all right, we have our new number one. It's Duke. Duke is going to be now number one. Cooper Flag and the boys are going to go in and win this game, and they're going to be number one. Well, guess what? Duke went and lost that night too. It was back-to-back huge upsets, baby. Now you have a new number one. It's Alabama. Clemson beats Duke 77-71 in a game that was incredible to watch start to finish. I mean, I think both of the games were awesome. The one thing I'll say about the Duke-Clemson game is there was a time where you could tell how much the physicality and the length really bothered Cooper Flag and bothered Duke. It was one of those things where it's funny because you watch them persevere through it, and they got right back in the game. They took the lead. Cooper Flag made a couple huge shots. The kid's big time. He's going to be great. But Clemson did not miss a big shot down the stretch. Anytime they had an opportunity to throw a dagger, to throw a nail, they did it. Both games were exciting to watch. Out of the two losses, who concerns you more, Auburn or Duke?
For me, it's tough to really say, because I think as far as of how things looked, I would say Duke, because if I am a team that's in the tournament, like for me, like the team that immediately comes to mind is Houston. Like Houston is a team that wants to kill you with physicality. They have the size, they have the length, they defend, like they do all those things well. And so if I'm a team like that, I'm like, all right, Cooper's great, Duke's great, Proctor's great. Like all these guys are great at what they do. But if we play our game plan like to this script, like we can take care of business. But I look at that Auburn and Florida game, I think that was kind of more of a styles makes fights kind of thing. And Florida has their resume so far. They had a bad loss to Tennessee a couple weeks ago. But like outside of that, like I think they have a loss to Kentucky as well.
Really no bad losses in the SEC.
They really don't have any bad. Like I think Florida can make an argument. I know they were at like 6 or 7 before that game against Auburn. You can make an argument they deserve to be at 1. They left Auburn at 1, but like Florida has been playing that well all season this year. And I get it. They lost to Tennessee, just a couple weeks ago, and that's still pretty fresh in everyone's mind.
They did to Tennessee afterwards, though. Screw that. I don't care. They beat Tennessee by 30.
Yep.
Who?
Florida. They beat Tennessee by 30. Yeah, they lost to them by 20, but they beat them by 30. Yeah. It's like both. That's all within the last month. They both played each other and dominated each other. Like I don't hold that against them. I look at that as like a coin flip. One of them dominated on one home court, and the other one dominated on the other home court.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not saying I hold it against them, but I'm just saying, like, I think Florida I look at Florida as a team that can win national championship this year. I look at Clemson as a team that can scare a lot of teams in the tournament. And so with that being said, that's why I think the Clemson one is a little bit more concerning, but I'm not really worried with either, because if I'm looking at on the Duke side of things, I think this is one of those like blessings in disguise kind of things, because that's the kind of game that you're going to play in the tournament. and now you have one already under your belt. Like those, some games are going to get gritty like that, and you got to find a way to persevere and get through it. And they fought. I mean, Clemson gave them everything that they could handle on their home floor, momentum, crowd. Like it was all in Clemson's favor, and Duke fought literally to the end there. So I think it was more of a lesson than a loss for Duke, but I lean that way just because I look at it from the Auburn-Florida game. I think Florida seems like won the Natty this year.
Do you not, like, when you looked at that Duke game, I thought when Duke was stuck on 49 forever, when they're up 49-43, and then they were down 51,
yeah, 54, yep.
So I'm like, there's no way Duke's winning this game. It's like Clemson has every piece of momentum. And I'll tell you, Dickie V called the game, and it was awesome to hear him back on the broadcast. But he kept saying, this is where Cooper Flagg is about to take over, and this is where Cooper Flagg is about to get involved. And sure as crap, Cooper Flagg got involved. Now, where Cooper needs to improve on his game is he has he's driving against contact. He puts too much muscle on the ball. It's always missing it deep. He needs to do himself a service now, a little bit of touch on his driving against contact. That was what I noticed from Cooper the most. But for him to step up and make two big-time threes in big-time moments, like calling for a screen, for a freshman kid to do that, call for a screen, round the screen, nothing but net. Take the lead by one. Oh, okay. Clemson comes back and hits a three, comes down, walks around, hits another three. They're up by two. It's like, what the hell? This kid's 18. That was incredible to watch. That was awesome. With that being said, though, I want to give Clemson every bit of credit that they deserve. Clemson looked awesome. Their defense played awesome. Their length is awesome. I say next week we start doing our little bracketology thing where we get the top four in each Joe Lenardi's like what's projected bracket, and we start talking about that. But college basketball is going to be super, super fun going into March Madness.
It's going to be, I mean, you talked about Clemson, who is a team. I mean, they're probably going to be the 2 seed coming out of the ACC. I'll be curious to see that rematch, on a neutral floor in the ACC tournament, assuming they get to each other, and really see how Duke kind of adjusts and switches their game plan up. But Clemson's a team that they get sat there like the 4 or 5 line. Like it's not a team you're going to run into for your second game. Auburn, to answer your original question, it's Duke for me, but by a very slim margin. And I'll say that Auburn's kind of been a front runner all year long, but they get into spurts where they get very offensively challenged. They're great defensively. They're big everywhere. They go through spurts where they can't hit a shot, and they don't have – other than I can't remember the kid's name, but other really than the shooting guard, they run a lot of sets. They're not kind of like a freewheeling team where they don't have that guy that's just going to create his own shot all the time, and they get stuck. And like I said, they get bailed out of it because they're elite defensively and on the boards. But SEC right now, they are on track to put 13 teams in the tournament, which will be a modern day record by a landslide. It's going to be wild. The SEC tournament, there is a chance the SEC tournament is better than March Madness. You're going to have, after the playing games, every single game for the rest of that bracket in the SEC will be ranked versus ranked all the way through. It's crazy.
Gene, I think to your point though that you made a couple of weeks ago, it will never happen this way because it's hard to turn off a switch and turn it back on, especially when you're dealing with college kids who are anywhere from 18 to 21 years old. But losing early in that tournament may literally win one of these teams a national championship. And I think it was important. It's important to bring that back up because I think now it's more prevalent than it has been before. Because we talked about college basketball a couple of weeks ago. We didn't even mention teams like Mississippi State, who's having a good run this year. Or South Carolina, A&M. There's so many good teams out in the SEC.
Ole Miss is ranked. Missouri's ranked. I mean, it's nuts.
St. John just lost to Villanova tonight, baby.
That's a big win for Nova.
It is. They're not gonna make the tournament though.
And that's gonna make it close.
They had another good win like a week and a half ago.
They beat.
They're 15-10. They're 8-6 in conference play in the Big East. They're not gonna make the tournament, bro.
Yeah, no, they're not making the tournament. Not with those. They got. I mean, if you can, it was that was a month ago.
If you can get to 20 wins and win 1 or 2 games in the tournament, it'll be close. They'll be on the bubble.
That's not what I was going to say. I was going to say if you can make a run in the Big East, then you have to. I mean, they got the UConn win. Like you got some good quad 1 wins already. So it'll be.
They beat Cincinnati. They beat UConn. I get it.
Who else they got along like the rest of the way?
They just beat Xavier, I think.
They got to beat
Marquette.
They have to beat Marquette.
Like, they play at UConn, so that's another loss.
Yeah. I'm just saying you want to at this point in time you want to try and pick up as many quad 1 wins as you can because that's what it's ultimately going to come down to.
We'll have a bigger discussion with college basketball. We had a really deep discussion with NFL this week, but we'll have a deeper discussion with college basketball next week. We'll have the bracket with the bracketology, and we'll start breaking down what regions would look like. And we're going to keep talking about college basketball. NBA will be back next week. We have some, see how these trades are working out. Luka, LeBron, first night together.
When's the All-Star break?
Friday.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's okay.
This
cool.
week, yeah.
Nice. All right. So that's a good discussion for next week then.
Okay. So let's get into You Got to Be Kidding Me.
All right. So for this week, I'm glad that you kind of gave that little segue there talking about trades. This week for me, I'm going to the NBA. I'm going with the Charlotte Hornets and the Los Angeles Lakers. Before the deadline, the Lakers obviously made the trade for Luka, and we said it last week on the show that they absolutely need to go get a center. Like they had to find a way to get a center, and they did. Well, at least they thought they did. They traded for Mark Williams. They gave up Connect and their first rounder, and ultimately everything was going to be good to go there. And the Lakers go do the physical for Mark Williams, and they're like, "All right, well, we knew he had a back issue, but there's all these other issues that you guys didn't tell us about, and that we're good. We're out on the deal." And so then Charlotte's GM comes out and they're like, we really loved Mark Williams. We wanted to keep him. But the Lakers were just aggressively pursuing, and they basically gave us a deal that we couldn't refuse. And then Palika came back to the media and was basically like, look, Mark Williams was a guy that the Hornets called us about. They tried to get over on us. They didn't think we'd do our due diligence as far as like the physicals go. And we did. We caught it. We're good. Now the Hornets are ultimately trying to, petition it to get the trade to go through there. So for me, I think they knew that Mark Williams was not 100% healthy there, which is why they're probably trying to get rid of him while they can. Because I told you guys before the year, I think Dalton Connect is going to be a star. And although Charlotte is one of those teams where you go to die, I think Dalton would be able to go be a star down there. And I think that's also why they're trying to make that push there. But this week for me, the Lakers obviously not doing their homework originally. And then with the Hornets trying to sell a bag of rocks there to that Lakers team. This week for me, you got to be kidding.
Come on, you got to be kidding me.
Dalton Connect throwing a little temper tantrum after not getting traded. At least he's suited up tonight, which is great. But he threw a temper tantrum like, "I don't release me. You're a rookie. Shut up. Shut up." He had a release from the Lakers.
It hurt his feelings. He was like, "It's going to take me some time to." My God,
you're a rookie, bro.
That's not.
They traded you for a center you needed.
Yeah, that's not the look you want.
Shall we?
I'm gonna go with Cam Newton this week. Did an interview the other day. Was talking about number 1 draft picks and being a quarterback and having aspirations and all the pressure and blah blah blah. Which is all true. If you're getting drafted out number 1 overall and a quarterback, you're probably going to a bad situation, which we've talked about numerous times on this show. But then he couldn't help himself, and he kept going, and then pretty much said when he got there that everybody that was there was a loser. It started calling all his teammates a loser. And then pretty much took credit for the entire turnaround of the franchise, which was pretty rich to me. Cam Newton had a really good 3 or 4 year run. I don't think anybody would deny that. Took him to the Super Bowl. I think it's really rich to call your teammates a bunch of losers when if you ask most people the one image they have of you, it's you not falling on a fumble in the biggest game of the year and pretty much quitting on your teammates. Steve Smith heard about it, went on Twitter right away. Steve Smith is a guy I think that everybody on the show likes. The way he played, going to be a Hall of Famer at some point. Didn't like it at all. I'm sure there's going to be more of it to come out from here. But Cam Newton is a guy that is now getting a microphone put in front of his face on a daily basis, and he's starting to say a lot of dumb things. He's a unique guy, which I think alone by itself is fine. Offer unique opinions. Don't blast your teammates on ESPN and call them losers, and then expect them to be friendly with you. Steve Smith, again, the last tweet I saw, he pretty much said, "Don't talk to me ever again," something along those lines, which was crazy. And again, I like and respect the hell out of Steve Smith. So for this week, for me, Cam Newton.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
I think the funny part about that a lot of people forget about is when they asked Cam Newton the most point blank, easiest question you can ever ask a quarterback. So would you trade your MVP for a Super Bowl ring? And Cam goes, no, absolutely not.
I'm not going to lie to you, though. Bill, I agree with you for using it because how he threw his teammates under the bus was not right. But for him to say that, we need more of that because there is a ton of athletes that think it. So if you think it, say it, own it. So I appreciate his honesty there.
I don't mind that because that's a personal.
I know.
That's a personal thing there. Like that.
Yeah.
If that's what you'd rather have, fine.
The teammates thing is why I'm saying I'm with you. But we need more people to. Gene, to your point earlier about AJ Brown, I'd much rather AJ come out and say, and he would never do this because he's under contract, he's still playing. But I'd much rather AJ come out and be like, you know what? I want to be the best receiver in the league. I don't care where I'm at. I have the ring now. I want to go be the best receiver wherever I can be.
Yeah,
best one in the league.
I mean, I get that. That's what I heard in the tweet. Exactly what you just said. Mine this week, I was going to use DeAndre Hopkins for his comments after the Super Bowl, and then something just popped up 2 hours before the show, and I'm going to use it because I love beating down on this guy. He deserves it because he's a piece of shit. I'm using Kadarius Toney this week.
I saw that's what we came on to.
Kadarius Toney was arrested. Let me just tell you how the mighty have fallen. The 20th pick in the 2021 NFL draft. Traded from the New York Giants to the Chiefs. Got himself a Super Bowl ring. Not on a team right now. Unrestricted free agent. I think his career in the NFL is now over. The 2021 first-round draft pick. 26-year-old has been accused of strangling a woman and taking her phone to prevent her from calling 911. Court documents allege that Toney placed his hand around a woman's throat with enough force to cause her to be unable to breathe and leave red marks on her neck, causing potential hemorrhaging in her eyes. He strangled this woman so hard that her eyes became completely bloodshot. It's so obvious that this man strangled this woman. Toney also allegedly took the woman's phone when she tried calling 911, canceled all voice commands, and made to the phone to prevent the woman from contacting the police. What a loser. Absolute loser. And I have no problem beating down on this guy because the first thing he did after being the 20, look, I'm not a Giants fan, but after being the 20th pick and getting traded to the Chiefs, he went and mocked the Giants. They just made you the 20th pick in the draft. You went over with the greatest quarterback that's in the NFL right now, and you look terrible with him too. He had the dropsies all last year. I'm calling it like it is. Kadarius Toney's a loser. He was overdrafted, drafted by a bad organization, went to a good organization, couldn't succeed there, and now is out of the NFL strangling women. So for that, this week, Kadarius Toney.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
What a loser.
Agreed.
Just real quick before we hop off, 4 Hall of Famers. Your initial thoughts? I like John Suggs' question. I think it's terrible. I think
agree.
it's awful. I'm just very upset with the NFL Hall of Fame.
I think there's a whole batch, especially in that list, in this year's group of finalists, that all deserve to be in. I don't know. Doesn't the NFL have something that they will only put in a certain amount a year?
The number is 5. You get 5 modern era athletes a year. Why in the hell did we only have 4 this year with the names that were eligible?
Yeah, agreed. It's kind of mind-boggling for me.
And by the way,
some of them are like just no doubters.
Antonio Gates is the one that stood out to me.
Second year, like what do you have to do from the tight end position to be a first ballot Hall of Famer?
Frustrating.
It's one of my favorite times of the year, though, man. When those guys find out, and that big dude that always does them gets me every goddamn time.
Really happy for Eric Allen.
Yeah. I don't think enough people realize how good Eric Allen was, and it's I mean, even you were kind of just probably getting into being like, really aware of it, but there's so many. What?
I was 8 and 9 his last few years with the Eagles.
Yeah. So, but I know, I know you the history of the team. Like you go back and do all that stuff. But there's so many young fans, Eagles fans now, that don't even know who he is, and he was part of that defense that was, I mean, legendary. Like he was really good, really, really good.
I just don't understand as well. You just talked about him. What does Steve Smith need to do to be a Hall of Famer?
I don't know.
Like, you are 8th all-time in receiving yards, and all 7 ahead of you. Well, outside of Larry. Larry's going to be a first ballot, I think, next year or 2 years from now. Yeah, true. But outside of that, like the next 3 guys behind you are also Hall of Famers. Like, I just don't know what needs to happen. Like, if you're top 10 in your position in terms of production, like, unless you're a scumbag like a Darren Sharper or something like that, then how are you not in the Hall of Fame? If it's not first ballot, I get it. If the numbers aren't there, the all pros don't line up, things like that. But Steve's been on the ballot for like 3 years now. Like, what are we doing?
Why do we not have a 5th person? I just don't get it.
Do any of them get it right though? Like, I would say the only thing I would say about baseball is in the end they get the right people in. It's the circus to get there, but like you're like the NFL. Like I don't like there's 5 or 6 guys on that list just from this year. Like you said, they're like, how are they not in? And then you're
so
gonna add
the greatest clutch kicker of all time, Adam Vinatieri, is not a Hall of Famer. Marshall Yanda, who is one of the best guards in football ever. He's not in. Steve Smith, who's a top 10 receiver of all time, is not in. Luke Kuechly. Those are the 4 guys that you could easily just threw a dart and said, okay, I'll take one of these 4. And everyone was like, okay.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah.
And who's new in the class next year? Besides,
you got Larry Fitz, and
class is ridiculous because you get 2 or 3 from next year for sure.
So Fitz and who else?
Let me go.
Drew Brees.
Yeah.
Has it been? Is Drew in there?
2026.
5 years, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, it's probably close.
So you're gonna get Fitz, you're gonna get Drew Brees, and then you're another year away from Brady. No, 2 years away from Brady.
Yeah, it's nuts, man. It's absolutely nuts that because you keep adding people and you only got 5 spots.
Like next year, 2 of the 4 guys that we just named, they're not getting in again.
I know.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Frank Gore is in next year's class. Like, I mean,
Frank won't be a first ballot.
He won't. But I'm just saying.
It's a scary thing too, just because he's a kicker. Like I get that, but
yeah, but Vinatieri, like, all right. So let's just say this year, right? You let 4 in. Why wouldn't you let 5 in and put the kickers? Like if you're not gonna let 5 in and use the most clutch kicker of all time, what the guy did in snow is insane. Like,
yeah. Listen. I'm not disagreeing with you. I again, you're going, especially, and you're starting getting into the era of guys that put up insane numbers when the league really changed. There's going to be 4 or 5 every class that you're gonna be like, oh, like there are no doubters.
Right.
That's including like linemen and D tackles and people like that. Like,
Marquise Pouncey's eligible next year. It's another one that's really
Yeah.
close.
that's what I mean. Like it's
Shady's eligible next year.
Yeah,
I know he won't get in first
Shady's
ballot, but
Shady's not getting in.
I know he won't get in first
I don't
ballot.
think Shady ever gets in, if I'm being
I don't
honest.
think so either. He had a great run here. If he could have sustained it longer when he left here, he would have had a shot.
Chip Kelly is the reason Shady McCoy won't be a Hall of Famer.
You're not wrong.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Dude.
You're not wrong at all.
Bro,
Right, you gotta wrap up. We're at 9.
He
We're
would get
9-11.
15
Any final
touch,
thought?
and Chip just be like, "Nah, you're done."
Jason
It'd be the
Witten,
third
too.
quarter. He'd be like, "You're not going to ball anymore."
Oh, yeah. Next year's class is going to be brutal because, yeah. But with all that said, I'm glad that Sterling Sharp got in. The video with Shannon, like, congratulating him, getting him in, him being completely clueless of what was going on was awesome. Like you said, though, Bill, I think with this time of year, like with them doing that, it's always great to see that. But no more football, so it is time to fully lock in the basketball, and I'm sure pretty soon here we'll be starting up some baseball lists.
This
Loving
is
it.
the most excited I think I've been about college basketball in a long time. I legit think this year is going to be. I know we say it a lot, but I think this year is going to be nuts. I really do.
Well, gentlemen, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Got nothing.
Nothing.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in to Wire2Wire Sports Podcast. I'm the NFL genius, Gene Walzak, Super Bowl champion, Philadelphia Eagles. In the upper left corner, that's Kent State's own, Cleveland's own, College Cottrell, Uncle Shally, Scholastic Shally, Super Bowl Shally, and we are signing out.